Hi guys, today is a New Year's episode, so I decided to make a themed animation. Let's do it together. As usual, we create a new file. I choose square. Frames per second to 12, duration to 2. I already have a background drawn for this animation, so I just place it on the screen. This is how it looks. I also prepared a color palette for myself in advance, which I will use. Let's start by drawing a path in red along which the tubing will ride. Like this. And we apply full duration. Great. On the new track, we begin to draw a draft for the tubing. We start from the very top. We immediately duplicate this frame and place it outside the boundaries of the animation as a guide for looping. And we draw the last frame just below. Okay, now we move to the center of the animation and draw a large tubing here, already on the near side of the ravine. So, let's move on to the intermediate frames. The tubing gradually moves down, stretching the shape. Then the speed and length increase. In the next frame, one side already disappears behind the hill. And another frame where we see only a small part. Then the tubing begins to appear in front. I duplicate the frame from the center and place it as the next one, so as not to miss the size. I move it to the right place. Okay, erase the lower part. Next, in the frame, we stretch the tubing a little and draw a jump up. And now we draw several frames, little by little rising up. This will be a small hang in the air. Let's watch the preview. It turns out great. Let's move on to the second part. Now the tubing gradually falls back. Then gradually moves behind the hill. And now we see the beginning that has appeared already at the very bottom of the ravine. We need to draw an approach to the original position. I redraw the last frame, because the tubing turned out to be too big in size. And now we stretch and draw the approach. At the end, a few frames for hanging. Watch the preview. I like it. The tubing is ready. Now we will make drafts for the cap. On a new layer, we choose a different color. We go to the frame where the tubing starts to jump up. I want to make a turn, so the cap appears on the left below. And in the following frames, we twist it to the right. To enhance the effect, we curve it as it moves. Next, we make a bounce. To do this, we draw a cap with a curve and a tilt in the opposite direction, and then we add frames for hanging. When the tubing is already falling down, we stretch the cap down. Let's watch the preview. I slightly clarify the position of the cap on the screen, and I redraw a few frames so that the movement is more obvious. Moving on. Finish drawing the cap on the remaining frames. First, the cap at the bottom of the tubing, and then we also start drawing the turn. And then when the fall begins, draw it in the direction of movement. Let's look at the preview. I still don't like the cap in the foreground. Let's clarify it a little more. Okay, moving on to drawing the arms and legs. On the new track, we choose a new color. And also start drawing on the frame where we have an upward flight. Focusing on the cap, we repeat the turn. It is also better to bend the arms and legs in the direction of movement. And when we get to the frames with the hang, we draw a small bounce, turning the bend in the opposite direction. Let's look at the intermediate preview. Cool, let's continue. Let's finish drawing the bounce when hovering. And then let's finish drawing the frames when falling. Let's move on to the frames at the bottom of the ravine. Here, let's focus on the hands for now. The hands are directed in the direction of movement. Where the turn begins, focusing on the hat, we also turn the hands. And when falling, they are already directed upwards. Let's look at the preview. Super. Let's move to a new track. Now let's draw the hair. We draw the hair sticking out from under the hat in the direction of movement. When the movement is already simply upward, the hair stretches. And when falling, on the contrary, it is compressed. Guys, this hat does not give me peace. Wait a couple of seconds. Now on the new track, let's draw 2025, our new year. And now, through duplicates, we will place it in the right place on each frame. Where necessary, we can compress by width or height. Erase the part that is already going beyond the border. Look at the preview. I like it. Let's move on to a new track. Let's add a New Year's glass. Draw it on each frame next to the hand. It is also important to bend it a little and stretch it when falling. Preview. Now it remains to fill it. Draw the liquid that sways from side to side. Our final draft is ready. Let's group all the layers. And apply transparency. On a new layer, I start Clean Up. I decided to do the tubing right away with the fill on small frames. We outline our animation frame by frame, layer by layer. Guys, this needs to be repeated for the entire animation. In the meantime, I'm drawing at an increased speed. I want to wish everyone creative success in the new year. Do what brings you joy and pleasure. It took me about half an hour to draw each frame, and I spent the same amount of time on the fill. This is the animation I ended up with. Let me know if you liked it. And also check out my sponsorship levels on my profile. It would be a great gift for me for the new year. Well guys, see you next year.